The Galactic Council chamber was a cathedral of stars. Towering spires of glass and alloy caught the radiance of nearby suns, and the delegates within basked in their own sense of superiority. At the center, beneath the shimmering dome, a lone human representative stood in silence as laughter rippled across the chamber. They crawled out of their gravity well barely a century ago. One reptilian delegate hissed, scales glittering under the lights. Now they demand recognition as equals? A cluster of avian diplomats trilled in chorus. Crude machines, unstable tempers, barely civilized. Let the humans observe from the gallery where they belong. The words were calculated to sting, and they succeeded. Ambassador Eliza Denning stood with chin raised, her lips pressed thin. She could not outshout the council, not when the majority already dismissed her people as children playing at war. Still, her eyes burned with the stubborn defiance that had carried Earth this far. From a secure chamber aboard Earth's defense platform Ardent Dawn, Commander Elias Rourke watched the broadcast. His square features betrayed no emotion, though his crew could see the tightening of his jaw. The mockery was not new. He had grown used to it during the long negotiations that won Earth a fragile seat in the Council. But something about the open laughter, the dismissive sneers, reopened wounds that had never fully healed. "Sir?" Lieutenant Vega asked softly, breaking the silence on the command deck. "Permission to mute the feed?" "Leave it," Rourke said, voice steady. "Better we remember how they see us." The lieutenant obeyed, though discomfort lingered in her eyes. The young crew, barely trained, most with only simulators to their name, shifted in their seats, embarrassed by the contempt pouring from the chamber. They had been told their posting on the Ardent Dawn was historic, that they were the guardians of Earth's first true orbital fortress. But now, listening to the jeers of alien powers, their pride dimmed. The silence broke with an alert tone. Rourke turned his gaze to the main display, where a massive object had breached the outer perimeter of Sol. His officers scrambled to bring it into focus. When the image resolved, a chill rippled across the bridge. It was no freighter, no trader. It was a warship. Sleek lines, hull plating dark as obsidian, spines jutting like the dorsal ridges of a predator. A Dominion heavy cruiser, Vraxar's Fawn. The ship dwarfed anything humanity had constructed. Its presence alone was a violation of Council protocols, but its deliberate arrival and Sol spoke of contempt. Before the crew could fully react, the vessel's transmission filled the deck with a low, resonant voice. "This is High Captain Varys Kotal of the Dominion Navy," the alien announced, amusement curling through each syllable. "To the fledgling world of Earth, your council seat is an insult to every ancient race. Today, I correct that insult." The alien's scaled visage appeared on the screen, crimson eyes gleaming with arrogance. He regarded humanity's station as one might inspect an insect's nest. Behind him, Dominion officers chuckled, their disdain unguarded. Kotal's sneer widened. "You call this platform a fortress? A collection of scrap welded into orbit armed with chemical rockets? It would not withstand a single breath from my engines." Rourke stepped forward, folding his hands behind his back. His voice, when it came, was calm. "You entered Sol without clearance. You will withdraw immediately." Laughter erupted from the alien bridge. Kotal leaned closer, as though savoring the defiance. "Withdraw? No, human. I will demonstrate. Watch closely." The cruiser's main battery flared once. A brilliant lance of plasma arced across the void and struck a derelict station drifting near the edge of orbit. The station vaporized instantly, scattering molten fragments that glittered like dying embers. The impact shock registered across Earth's orbital sensors. Civilians on the planet below watched with dread as the flash lit the sky. On the Ardent Dawn, young officers froze. Vega swore under her breath. Rourke alone remained motionless, his eyes locked on the display. His crew looked to him for orders, fear trembling just beneath discipline. Kotal's voice returned, smug and unhurried. "Do you see, humans? Your shells of metal cannot protect you. Your defenses crumble at a gesture. Kneel now, and I may spare your homeworld the lesson your station just learned." The council chamber echoed with laughter again, this time not only mocking but entertained. Delegates leaned back, amused at the spectacle. A human outpost destroyed, humanity humiliated. To them, this was proof of their earlier words. Ambassador Denning's fists tightened until her knuckles whitened. She glanced at the screens, at Earth's orbital command channels. In her earpiece came a private voice. Authorization secure. Rourke is cleared. On ardent dawn, a coded transmission arrived at Rourke's console. The clearance seals were unmistakable, direct from Earth Command. The words were simple, Magnetolance authorized. For a moment, the bridge was silent, save for the faint hum of life support. Vega read over his shoulder and swallowed. Sir, the prototype. It's not. It's ready enough, Rourke said. His tone left no space for argument. The Magnetolance had been Earth's most desperate gamble, an experimental weapon hidden from alien eyes, constructed in secrecy in orbital yards. Few outside the Defense Corps knew it even existed. Its power remained untested, its stability uncertain. But it was all Earth had. Rourke turned back to his crew, who waited for his command. Some looked terrified, others doubtful, but all were loyal. He spoke quietly, yet with steel behind his words. They think we are weak. They think we will bend. But we will not. Prepare the lance. Vega hesitated, then nodded sharply. Yes, sir. Charging sequence initialized. The deck filled with motion. Engineers rerouted power, technicians calibrated coils, gunners whispered prayers under their breath. The ship's hum deepened, resonance building like a storm beneath the hull. For the first time since the cruiser's arrival, the crew moved with purpose rather than fear. On the main screen, Cottle tilted his head, watching the humans stir. So the insects spare their stingers, he murmured. Very well. Entertain me before I crush you. Rourke ignored the taunts. His gaze lingered on the massive shadow of Raxor's Fong, its spines glinting against the sun. He thought of his family, lost in raids the Dominion once dismissed as training exercises. He thought of the laughter in the council chamber, of the children on Earth who had looked up at the destroyed station's flash. His jaw set. This ends now. The cruiser loomed, confident in its superiority. The council chamber roared with laughter, blind to what was about to unfold. On ardent dawn, the Magnetolance stirred, a beast awakening in silence. And Elias Rourke stood at the center, his voice steady as stone. Charge complete. Ready the weapon. The crew exchanged glances. Fear remained, but beneath it burned something new. Resolve. Cottall's grin widened across the screen. Come then, human. Show me your sting. Rourke's eyes did not waver. You asked for a lesson, Captain? Let us teach you one. The chapter closed with the weapon's coils glowing brighter than the stars beyond, the promise of retribution alive in every arc of energy. The hum of the Magnetolance deepened into a bone-shaking vibration that rattled every panel aboard Ardent Dawn. Warning lights flared across the control boards as plasma conduits groaned under pressure. To the crew, it felt as though the station itself had grown a heartbeat, loud, insistent, alive. Lieutenant Vega called out from the weapons pit, her voice steady despite the sweat streaking her temple. Magnetolance at 30% charge. Containment fields holding. Estimated full power in 3 minutes. The crew worked in a tense rhythm, hands moving with precision, but eyes betraying unease. They knew this was no standard drill. If the weapon failed, there would be no second attempt, no retreat. Cottall's image reappeared on the main display. He leaned lazily in his command throne, ridged brow creased with amusement. What are they doing? Charging a child's toy? He barked a laugh, echoed by the sneers of his bridge crew. Fire it, little humans! Fire it so I may demonstrate what real weapons look like. Mute him, Rourke ordered. His voice cut through the tension, sharp and calm. We don't need his noise. The channel closed, but the shadow of the cruiser still loomed across the viewport, vast and unyielding. Its spines glimmered with restrained power, as if taunting Earth's fragile defiance. Chief Engineer Langley emerged from below the deck, face streaked with grease. Containment matrix is fighting us. Any more strain and we're risking breach. Will it hold? Rourke asked. Langley hesitated, then nodded once. If we don't hesitate. Fire fast, fire clean. Rourke's eyes swept the bridge. Young officers straightened under his gaze, fear tempered by the steel in their captain's voice. Then that's what we do. No hesitation. Vega's hands flew across the console. 50%. Arc coils stable. The hum climbed higher, filling the air with a metallic taste. The viewport dimmed automatically as the weapon's glow threatened to blind. In the silence, someone whispered a prayer. Another clenched fist white against the railing. Rourke allowed it. They were human, not machines, and this moment demanded all the humanity they could summon. On the alien vessel, Kotal finally grew impatient. The cruiser's forward batteries shifted, energy fields shimmering along their edges. A shot was coming. 70%, Vega reported, urgency creeping into her tone. Time to full charge? Rourke asked. 60 seconds. Rourke glanced at the tactical screen. The Dominion ship was powering weapons faster than expected. Not fast enough. Prepare emergency override. Langley stiffened. Sir, override could overload the coils. We could lose the entire station. Rourke did not flinch. And if we wait, we lose Earth. I'll take the risk. The crew exchanged quick glances, but no one argued. They had already made their choice the moment they stayed at their posts. Engage override, Rourke said. The deck lurched as additional power surged into the magnetolance. Lights flickered, the hum transformed into a roar that shook the marrow of their bones. Sparks spat from overloaded relays, but the containment field stabilized at the last instant. Full charge in 10 seconds! Vega shouted above the rising noise. The Dominion cruiser fired. A pulse of violet plasma streaked across the void, a killing blow meant to end Earth's defiance. Fire control ready, Vega cried. Rourke raised his hand, eyes locked on the enemy's glowing barrage racing toward them. On my mark! The crew held their breath. The pulse expanded on the screen, brilliant, merciless. Mark! Fire! The magnetolance unleashed its fury. A blinding spear of white-blue energy erupted from the station, so bright the viewport's filters struggled to contain it. The beam tore through space with impossible speed, meeting the oncoming plasma head-on. The two forces collided in the void. For an instant the universe held its breath. Then the plasma wave shattered, scattered into harmless fragments that dissolved against Earth's upper atmosphere. The beam did not falter. It drove forward, piercing the Dominion cruiser's shields with the unstoppable force of a thunderbolt. On the ardent dawn, the bridge filled with stunned silence broken only by the crackle of energy subsiding. Officers leaned forward, eyes wide, as the lance continued its path straight into the heart of Vraxar's Fong. Kotal's smug expression twisted to shock as alarms blared behind him. Shields collapsing! Impossible! His voice cut into static as the beam carved deep into his ship's hull. Explosions rippled across the cruiser's length, fire blossoming along its dorsal ridges. The vessel shuddered, wounded yet clinging to life. For the first time in centuries of conquest, the Dominion flagship had met a weapon it could not shrug off. Rourke gripped the railing, voice steady. Again. Recharge cycle, now. Coils are venting! Langley shouted. We need time to cool or they'll melt through the deck. Rourke considered, then nodded. Stabilize, then rearm. We finish this. On the Council's broadcast screens across the galaxy, entire chambers fell into stunned quiet. Delegates who had mocked Earth now leaned forward, disbelief on their faces. A human weapon had stopped a Dominion cruiser's assault. The impossible had just happened in real time. Inside Ardent Dawn, the crew erupted in cheers before discipline returned. They had faced annihilation and struck back. Hope blazed where fear had reigned minutes earlier. Kotal's ship reeled but had not yet died. Fires licked along its hull, but its engines burned hot, preparing another strike. His face, returning to the transmission, was no longer amused. It was twisted with fury. You dare wound a Dominion warship? He snarled. You will burn for this insolence. Rourke cut him off with a simple reply. We don't kneel. Vega looked up from her console, voice firm. Recharge at 40%. We can fire again in under 2 minutes. Hold steady, Rourke said. He let his words roll across the bridge, anchoring every heart. The galaxy is watching. We finish this clean. Katal bared his teeth, raising his clawed hand for another command. His crew scrambled, patching ruptured conduits, redirecting power to weapons. Yet the aura of invincibility was gone. Where once there had been laughter, now there was desperation. The ardent dawn continued to hum with renewed life, its heart beating stronger, louder. The magnetolance glowed once more, promising a second strike. The Dominion cruiser loomed ahead, wounded but unbroken, its guns still pointed at Earth. The final exchange was coming, the clash that would decide whether humanity remained prey or stood as predator. And Commander Elias Rourke, calm at the center of the storm, prepared to deliver the answer. The glow of the magnetolance dimmed, coils releasing heat in shuddering waves. The ardent dawn vibrated as coolant systems strained to keep the weapon alive for another shot. Smoke clung to the edges of the bridge, but no one left their stations. Every eye was fixed on the tactical screen, where Vraxar's Fong staggered in the dark like a wounded beast. Recharge at 60%, Vega reported. Her voice carried no fear now, only sharp focus. Containment holding. One more strike will breach their core. Chief Engineer Langley wiped soot from his brow. Push it too far and the coils might split, but she'll fire. Commander Rourke studied the enemy warship. Its hull burned in fractured sections, venting atmosphere and fire into the void. Yet the cruiser's engines still flared, dragging it back into line with Earth. A predator refusing to fall. Katal's transmission snapped back onto the display. His face was no longer calm. Jagged cracks of light strobed across his bridge as Dominion officers struggled at failing stations. Fury twisted his features. You dare! He roared, spittle striking the lens. No lesser world humiliates the Dominion. I will tear your planet open. Save your threats, Rourke said evenly. You're not leaving orbit. Katal bared fangs in a snarl, then cut the feed. The Dominion cruiser's weapons lit once more, engines pushing it forward despite the damage. It was still deadly. The Council broadcast caught every moment, sending the confrontation across half the galaxy. Delegates leaned forward in silence now, the laughter gone. 80% charge, Vega called. The hum of the lance rose higher, power coursing through the station like the heartbeat of a giant. Rourke raised his hand. Steady. Wait for full power. The alien ship's forward cannon ignited, energy condensing into a sphere of violet light. It swelled, ready to unleash devastation. 90%, Vega announced. Time seemed to slow. The violet sphere bloomed on the enemy's bow. The magnetolance screamed through its coils, the air thick with ozone. 100%, Vega said. Rourke dropped his hand. Fire! The station shook as the magnetolance released its second strike. A spear of light tore into the void, faster than thought, brighter than any star. It punched through the forming plasma sphere, scattering it into fragments, then drove straight into the cruiser's exposed flank. The Dominion ship convulsed. Its shield shattered like glass, hull plating buckling under the unstoppable energy. Explosions raced across its length, tearing compartments apart in violent cascades. A final detonation ripped through its core. For one blinding instant, Vraxar's Fong was consumed in white fire. Then there was nothing. Only drifting debris, silent and weightless. On the ardent dawn, no one spoke. The bridge was filled with the faint hiss of systems recovering, the slow retreat of the lance's glow. At last Vega exhaled. Target eliminated. The crew erupted in cheers, wild, unrestrained, filled with relief. Officers slammed hands together, some laughed, others shouted. One sat back and wept quietly. They had stood against the Dominion and survived. More than survived, they had won. Rourke let the noise wash over him, but his expression remained steady. He knew what the victory meant, but also what would follow. The galaxy would not forget this day. "Status report," he said. Langley scanned the readouts. "Lance is offline, coils fried. She won't fire again without weeks of repair. Shields intact. Casualties minimal," Vega added. Her eyes, though, glowed with pride. Rourke gave a single nod. "Then we hold orbit. Earth is safe." Across the stars, the council chamber descended into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, voices sharp with fear, awe, and anger. Some demanded an investigation, others called for sanctions. But beneath the uproar, a single truth hung heavy: humanity had destroyed a Dominion warship with a single weapon. Ambassador Denning stood at her podium, the chaos swirling around her. When the chamber's volume peaked, she raised her voice, not loud, but cutting enough to draw silence. "You mocked us," she said. "You called us children. Today, your champion came to our world to prove it. He is gone. We remain." The silence deepened. Denning held the moment, then turned away, letting her words linger. Back on the Ardent Dawn, the crew's energy slowly settled. Some leaned against rails, exhausted by the strain. Others stared at the stars, eyes wide with the weight of what they had witnessed. Rourke addressed them, his voice measured, carrying through the quiet. "What you did here will be remembered. You faced a fleet that has crushed empires and proved that Earth does not kneel. The galaxy knows it now." Vega asked the question many were thinking. "And what happens next?" Rourke's gaze fixed on the debris field where Vraxer's Fong had once loomed. "They'll come again. Stronger. They'll want revenge. But today, we showed them we will not be broken." He paused, then added, "Our fight has only begun." The words settled over the crew, sobering and strengthening all at once. Their triumph was real, but it was also a beginning. Below them, Earth celebrated as news reached the planet's surface. Cities erupted with cheers, people filled the streets, and for the first time, humanity felt not like prey but like a power rising among the stars. Children who had cowered at the flash of Ka'al's first shot now pointed upward, knowing their defenders had stood tall. But in distant corners of the galaxy, darker conversation stirred. Empires watched the feed and recalculated. Some spoke of curbing humanity before it grew too bold. Others whispered of alliances and opportunities. The balance of power had shifted, and the ripples would spread. On the bridge of the Ardent Dawn, the crew sat in tired silence as the stars drifted outside the viewport. Rourke stood alone at the forward window, his hands clasped behind his back. The reflection of Earth filled his eyes, blue and bright against the void. "They mocked our weapons," he murmured. "They thought us harmless. They will not laugh again." The words hung in the quiet, a promise and a warning. Behind him, the crew drew strength from his certainty. Ahead of them lay wars not yet fought, dangers not yet seen. But in that moment, humanity had taken its place in the galaxy, not as supplicant, not as victim, but as a force to be reckoned with. And the wreckage of Vraxer's Fong drifted silently in orbit, a monument to the day Earth announced itself with fire.